So the 2023 Formula One season is up and running at last, but that first race this is an interesting one to say the least. Yes, there was no major battle up front. In fact, Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez pretty much cruised home to an easy 1-2. But there are some hints about a slight change in the order, with one particular driver and one particular team staking a claim for being the best of the rest on the grid. And more importantly, we are very much set for another tight, edition of racing in the midfield of Formula One this year. So in this video, we're going to be looking at all of the people who we think were the winners or losers of this particular race weekend. And so without further ado, let's just kick up straight to it and let's talk about the first winner of this weekend. Very obviously, Max Verstappen. Well, Verstappen, up until this season, had never won the opening race of the Formula One calendar. In fact, he'd never won at Bahrain, despite actually coming very close in both 2021 and 2022. 2023, he made sure that he made it count, having started from pole position, absolutely cruised to a win. Not during any point of the race was he engaging in any kind of action with any of the drivers. No one even came close to even attempt an overtake on him. Such was the dominance he had on this particular race. And if this particular race is any evidence, and bear in mind we're only one race in to what is a 23 race season, it does seem like Verstappen is headed, or rather cruising towards, a third Formula One World Drivers' Championship. So obviously the biggest winner of our weekend, Supermax. Now focusing on one of the bigger losers from this weekend, Scuderia Ferrari. Well, it was supposed to be a case of get the team principal out and get some new fresh blood into the side, and things would start sorting themselves out at Ferrari. But this particular weekend proved that there's still more than a few things that the Maranello team needs to work on if they are to truly become a contender for the world title going forward. Now, this time around, you had Carlos Sainz, who finished the race in 4th place, but who didn't come anywhere close to troubling any of the front runners. And to make things worse, an old, let's say an old problem of Ferraris, which was, of course, poor reliability, came back to haunt them when Charles Leclerc had to retire from the race at the end after he reported that he was losing power. Again, Ferrari ended the second half of the 2022 season in dismal fashion, and it looks like that they have unfortunately picked up where they left off from last season. So for that, they are one of the biggest losers of this particular race weekend. The other big losers from this weekend, of course, Mercedes. Now, Mercedes did raise more than a few eyebrows when they chose to stick with the car concept that actually, ensured that they fell off the grid as a top team for the first time in a number of years. Yet, if this particular race weekend was any evidence, this time around they aren't even guaranteed to be cruising to 3rd position. In fact, what they will be doing is be in a battle for 3rd and 4th with the Aston Martins. More on them in just a bit. Now, Mercedes have hinted at the fact that they might, of course, be coming up with some upgrades very, very soon that will actually considerably change the look and the behavior of the car. And if you're a Mercedes fan, you'd be hoping that those upgrades come sooner rather than later, because in this particular race, they did look like only the 4th best team on the grid, which really is saying something, considering that just as recently as 2021, not only were they in contention for the World Championship, but they also won the Constructors' Championship as well. And the fact that Mercedes are in danger of losing out to even 3rd spot comes not only due to their own poor start, but the strong start of Aston Martin and Fernando Alonso. Now, Alonso and Aston Martin was always seen as an interesting combination, to say the least, but Alonso is a master of being able to extract the absolute most performance out of his car, and it does look like the Aston Martin have actually produced an absolute banger of a car to start this season. They had been afflicted by a lot of issues in 2021 and 2022, but this time around, having settled in early on their development concept and sticking with it and being aggressive with their car strategy, it looks to have paid off. And in the hands of Fernando Alonso, this looked like a car that can be consistently challenging for podium finishes under the right circumstances. Now, again, it's still very early days in the season. There's still 22 races to go, but you would not be a wise man if you bet against Fernando Alonso adding to those podium finishes before the end of the season, and for Aston Martin to make a very serious case for them being arguably the 3rd best team in the year. So they are the other big winners from this particular race weekend. Last, well, this is a joint winner, let's say, and these three drivers get it. You have Pierre Gasly, you have Valtteri Bottas, and you have Alexander Albon. Why? Because these were the only other three drivers from a team that wasn't Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, and Aston Martin to be up in the points. So all of these three drivers actually ended up getting in the points. And for Pierre Gasly, obviously a dream debut in some ways for Alpine, of course, a French driver in a French team collecting first points, and a good solid start considering that he started the race from the bottom of the grid but ended up actually making it into the points. So good recovery from him. Valtteri Bottas in that Alfa Romeo did very much look like he could be a credible, solid midfield driver for very much a midfield side, and of course he also ended up finishing in the points, whereas Alex Albon getting the points was a bit of a surprise considering Williams were again expected to be possibly the slowest car on the grid. But it does look like they've corrected some of the problems that afflicted the balance of their car, even though the car does seem to lack a little bit of downforce in key points. But in the hands of Albon, you would not bet against the Williams team getting at least a few more points finishes. So these three drivers are the remaining big winners from this particular race weekend. Special mention as far as losers for the weekend go, McLaren, unfortunately. You had Oscar Piastri, who ended up retiring on his debut, and you also had Lando Norris actually finishing 20th and 2 laps down. So plenty of work needed there as well. But these are for us the big winners and losers from the Bahrain GP weekend. You agree or disagree? Well, you can let us know about all of that in the comments. And don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell icon. Also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And last but not least, don't forget to download the AajTak app. If you're already on the channel, well, go ahead and check out some other videos that we may have done. For now, though, from my side, goodbye.